actually does these days? The answer is likely a frustrated sigh. We see an institution paralyzed by gridlock, repeatedly failing to agree on basic budgets and triggering government shutdowns. Because the legislature struggles to pass laws, we have grown accustomed to seeing national policy dictated from a podium. We rely heavily on executive decrees, looking to one person to solve complex problems, simply because the 535 people across town cannot. Curious. But if you look at the original blueprints for the United States, you find a very different design. Right below "We the People," the very first section of the Constitution is Article 1. The framers spent almost half the length of the entire document detailing the powers of Congress. They gave this branch the exclusive authority to tax, to spend money, to declare war, and to write the laws of the land, which leaves us with a massive contradiction. How did the branch of government built to hold nearly all federal power become the weakest, most paralyzed institution in the country? To understand this, we have to go back to the beginning. The men who wrote the Constitution had just fought a war to escape a British king. Their absolute highest priority was guaranteeing that power could never be held by a single ruler ever again. Well, their solution was to take the supreme authority of a monarch and violently shatter it into pieces. By distributing that power among hundreds of representatives, no single faction or person could wield it on their own. Getting the original states to agree on how to distribute those pieces required a massive negotiation known as the Great Compromise. It was a structural agreement designed to satisfy both the highly populated states and the smaller ones. This agreement split the legislature into two distinct bodies. The House of Representatives was based on population, giving more influence to larger states. The Senate gave 2 votes to every state. These chambers had entirely different electoral incentives, meaning they were designed to clash over almost every major issue. Congress is often criticized for being sluggish and inefficient, but that friction is the intended safeguard. Exhausting, endless debate was the exact mechanism the founders used to prevent a rapid, tyrannical takeover. For decades, this difficult machinery worked. Lawmakers were forced to negotiate through their massive regional differences and eventually compromise to keep the government functioning. But the founders missed a crucial variable. They did not account for the rise of rigid, highly organized political parties demanding total loyalty from their members. This chart shows the rise in party polarization over the last 50 years. As the gap between the two major parties widens, it directly intersects with a plunging line representing the volume of major laws successfully passed. Today, reaching across the aisle is heavily penalized. If a modern politician compromises with the opposing side, they face severe electoral backlash and primary challenges from their own voters. Gridlock has become the safest possible strategy to keep their jobs. Rather than taking politically damaging votes on difficult, complex issues, leadership simply refuses to bring those bills to the floor. The result is empty chambers and a legislature that abandons its core duty. Extreme partisanship poured into a machine that requires consensus overrides the intended friction entirely. It triggers a complete systemic shutdown. Even with Congress paralyzed, the demands of running a global superpower and a complex economy continue every day. That creates a massive vacuum of leadership at the top. The real surprise is that Congress didn't have its power stolen by ambitious presidents. Lawmakers actively chose to delegate their constitutional duties to outside agencies, dodging the responsibility of making hard choices themselves. They passed laws granting sweeping authority to the executive branch. Today, massive policy decisions are handled by a vast network of federal agencies directed by the White House, rather than through legislative debate. Similarly, because Congress refuses to update vague or outdated laws, the interpretive burden falls across the street. The Supreme Court is frequently forced to effectively write policy by deciding what those old laws mean in a modern context. The weakness of Congress is a deliberate choice. Its members actively prioritize self-preservation and political safety over institutional power. Leaving an immensely powerful executive branch and court system to operate without consistent congressional checks creates the exact concentration of power the founders were terrified of. Lawmakers could implement structural reforms to congressional rules, like altering filibuster mechanics or overhauling committee structures, to force the gears to turn again. But ultimately, rule changes will fail to fix the root problem. The machinery of Congress will remain locked until American voters change what they demand at the ballot box, choosing to reward representatives who negotiate and compromise, rather than those who choose paralysis.